Over the last 24 hours, we have witnessed absolutely nothing in terms of price action. I know, sounds crazy, right? The market has been very boring, and we've just been consolidating, especially on Bitcoin lately, which is why most of the altcoin market, including even XRP, is not moving. There is some outliers, like for an example, on the 24-hour span, we do have a few altcoins jumping a couple percent. And then, of course, we do have a few that are double digits right now. And then if we're looking at the rest of the market in terms like even the top 500, again, the market has barely moved in the last 24 hours. And if we're looking at the last 7 days, sure, there's a few altcoins that have been pumping off of the lows, but it's been a pretty boring week in crypto, even with the FOMC week being here. So, again, price action, very boring, not much of a difference here. But looking at Bitcoin, main thing that we're looking at here, and we've been doing this for about 3 weeks now, for looking at the price chart, from that bottom wick back in November to where we currently are trading, it's been about 21 days. Now, it's been 21 days of Bitcoin having this higher low pattern. We recently made a high. We created a lower high from that, which I would love for us to break over because, again, having that risk here, obviously it's telling us that Bitcoin is most likely going to drop. I would argue that we probably get about a 5% drop on Bitcoin. That would take us to about roughly like 87K. That would be fair. We would have a wick just similar to the last previous wicks, and then we would start to build a floor here. This would be our third, high here, or, low technically, but it would be a higher low. And then from that point, we start to create bullish structure, creating a higher high. Now, I would love for a daily candle close over 93.6K to begin. And then after that, I still won't be bullish on Bitcoin until we are back above, and if we're looking at this on the weekly view, until we're back above roughly like 97, 98K. And even then, it's still a little bit concerning. I would argue that we want to be above 105K to officially be out of the water. But, it's going to take a little bit of time. And, during this time, we are just chopping. It's consolidating. It's boring. It's frustrating. I understand. But eventually, we will get out of this, price action, this boring price action. XRP is in the same position. Our lows recently retested the lows from the beginning of the month. I would love for this low to hold around roughly $1.99. If it is lost, okay, it's not the end of the world. Looking at this on the weekly and, structure out of the way, because again, the main thing that I was looking at here on like even the 24-hour view is that we do have a low, we have some higher lows, but it looks pretty weak. I don't think that that's going to, hold. But looking at this on the weekly, again, I mentioned multiple levels here. The main level that I'm watching for is just $1.90. I do not want to see us lose $1.90 on XRP. And retesting our prior lows, or, technically this fair value gap that we have back here on the chart, it wouldn't be, something crazy to see. So anywhere between like $1.62 to $1.91 is still possible. But I would love for us to maintain above $1.90 just for the sake of the price chart. Having, still that bullish sort of structure. It's not the best bullish structure, but again, it would still be, a positive structure outside of us flipping into a negative, view of XRP. But outside of that, a lot of news is happening around both Ripple and even XRP. Recently, Ripple did just announce that the deal is officially closed with Rail. With this acquisition, Ripple Payments is the market's most comprehensive end-to-end stablecoin solution. It's very exciting, especially considering the fact that, yes, Rail is one of the largest players in the stablecoin game. If we're looking at Rail here, we have virtual accounts and stablecoin payments. The company's $200 million acquisition of Rail will make Ripple Payments the market's most comprehensive end-to-end stablecoin payment solution, compliantly connecting the best of fiat and digital assets to that business, or so that businesses can move money faster, save cost, and build to grow. With virtual accounts, automated back office capabilities, and intelligent payout routing, Rail simplifies everything from corporate collections to global treasury flows. Rather than requiring customers to hold stablecoins or maintain specialized crypto bank accounts, the addition of Rail allows businesses to make pay-ins and payouts across key corridors entirely through Ripple's unified platform. It supports a variety of digital assets, can price large value transactions competitively, and operates 24/7, 365 through a single API for streamlined onboarding. With Rail, Ripple Payments will give businesses one seamless system for moving value globally without operational overhead or added complexity. So yeah, this is definitely very positive for RLUSD. We recently just talked about RLUSD and how it's been expanding. Looking at the market cap, it's up about almost 24% in the last 30 days. I do suspect that this is going to continue to grow, and especially considering the fact that these acquisitions are finally coming to a close, I do think that this is going to affect that in a big way. So very excited about that. Now, let's talk a little bit about XRP and the ETFs. The main thing and the main question that everyone has been asking is, if all of these ETFs are doing so well, if all of these ETFs are, eating up the supply, why is XRP not pumping? Why are we not seeing positive price action on XRP? First and foremost, for a lot of those, people that are negative out there, because I have been witnessing a lot of comments coming in talking about how XRP is a scam because it's down, right? It's down. Oh, from its prior high back in July, it's down 45%. It did wick down as low as like 57.91% recently. Everyone is, looking at this and they're saying, oh, it's down 40%. I have held XRP for so long. In fact, I've been talking about XRP on this channel for a very long time. In fact, I think it's been well over like 4 years now. And I feel as if a lot of people are just overlooking how high we are from the bear market lows. We're still up 592%. Our prior high, we were up over 1,153%. I'm just going to be straightforward with a lot of people out there. XRP, it does not, from this point on, it does not need to do too much more this cycle, only because it's done well over an 1,100% push already to the upside. Just for reference, back in 2020 into 2021, we hit 1,800%. XRP has performed extremely well this cycle. Now, does that mean that XRP is done for this cycle? No, I don't believe so. But I'm just saying that XRP has been a very strong performer already this cycle. So, when we are thinking about how XRP is down a bit from its prior high, that's to be expected. And ultimately, XRP is still up massively from, the prior lows. But to answer the question of why XRP really isn't moving with these ETFs being very successful, well, number one, it takes a lot of money to move XRP. XRP has a market cap of over $122 billion. For everyone that's out there saying right now market cap doesn't matter, market cap matters to an extent. Obviously, XRP doesn't need $100 billion into it to move the price, but it does need a significant amount of money to move XRP. Especially if we're talking about like pumping 20 cents or 30 cents or 40 cents, like even our recent moves to the upside. I mean, a lot of these moves, and if we're looking at this going back to this view, if we're looking at some of these moves on this chart, it required over like $3 billion. And if we're looking at like the 1 year and we're going back to even like July, this is like $9.5 billion. That's just in one single day though. There's been multiple days of, pressure building where the total accumulated value here to move XRP to the upside was well over like $80+ billion of trading volume. Now that's both positive and negative trading volume. So if we're looking at the ETFs and, currently speaking, our spot volume, which is the one thing that matters, the leveraged volume does not matter. The spot volume here was about $27 million today. Again, $27 million is not moving an asset that has over $100+ billion in market cap. And I'm just being honest with you guys. But over time, and I think that this is the biggest thing that everyone should be focused on. And I think that this is probably one of those things that a lot of people will also look at and say, oh, well, we have to wait even longer. Great. Over time, the ETFs will start to accumulate. And what I mean by that is, if inflows keep consistent and we don't see, a crazy amount of outflows, these will start to accumulate more and more and more and more. And that will lead to the ETFs becoming a price pressure cooker where, yes, the price action will result in a positive upside push. That's going to be very bullish. Now, so far, the ETFs have been doing very well. They neared $1 billion in inflows. I'm pretty sure that they already hit well over $1 billion in inflows, which I'll talk about here in a moment. But we are starting to see more and more inflows every single day. The current view right now, and you guys probably already see that there's 6 ETFs here. Yes, 21 shares officially launched TOXR earlier today. That went live, already resulting in over $368,000 in inflows. Our daily volume was 27.14 million. The total volume here is well over, $50+ million in inflows, considering the fact that we do have leverage positions as well. But looking at the total XRP locked, about 503 million, we just surpassed the 0.5% point mark, which is pretty cool to see. But again, this is not like over $1 billion in total assets under management. This is not going to affect the price just yet. Also, remember that all of this is OTC deals. So they don't buy immediately that day or when the trades are coming in. They typically have like a time frame in which they have to do those buys. And it could be at any point. It could be at any time of the day. Typically, it is during market hours. But again, it's not going to affect the value of XRP at all. Until we start to see inflows hitting billions and billions of dollars every single day, I'm not going to, I don't think that we're going to see the ETFs result in a massive price impact. But over time, like I said, it will accumulate, especially the percentage of the supply locked in ETFs. If we start to see this surging to like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5+% of the supply being locked away, then we could start to see a supply shock combined with the price driver. But it's going to take time. And I'm just going to be honest with you guys. But 21 shares did officially launch earlier today. They had 100 million XRP already seeded in this. We have here that the ETF launched December 11th, 2025 is the 5th spot XRP product. I'm pretty sure it's the 6th. I think that this is wrong because we do have Rex Osprey, but I guess the Rex Osprey one, they're not really counting as a spot-based ETF because it is a mix of both spot and futures. But it tracks XRP's price with a low 0.3% expense ratio and started with about 204.5 million in assets. This follows Ripple's SEC clarity and rising institutional interest in XRP for cross-border payments, with total ETF assets nearing 1 billion and steady inflows. Everyday investors now access it easily via custodians like Coinbase and BitGo. Now, yeah, this was definitely a great launch, and 21 shares already put out a full post regarding it. They even said why XRP matters, supported by XRP Army, one of the strongest communities in crypto. I would concur. The XRP Ledger is a public blockchain built for businesses since 2012. Real-world institutional adoption via global payments, tokenization, and DeFi. Currently the 4th largest crypto by market cap. And also, what have we seen so far from these ETFs? Well, 19 straight days of inflows. Big shout out to Moon Lambo for this. We've now had 19 straight days of inflows into spot XRP ETFs. Since the launch of the first one, there have been 0 days with outflows. Cumulative spot XRP ETF inflow is now 954 million. Now imagine another 5 years out, another 10 years, relentless demand. And this is the best way to look at this. I feel as if, and I really hate this about the crypto space, I feel as if everyone's looking at this space in terms of just cycles and they're waiting for, that one big move to the upside. Like, I understand that we do have an alt season. I understand that we do have the typical 4-year cycle, which now everyone's saying like it's the 5-year cycle. But it kind of feels as if like everyone just forgets about this point of the cycle and they just want the immediate price action. They also don't think about like what happens going forward. And I made a video recently talking about like even the Bitcoin cycles and how eventually like XRP will have this gradual price swing in it where we start to just kind of continue to go up. And even during the bear market, right, like we'll have this surge, and during the bear market we'll come back down to like the prior highs, and then we'll start to build back to the upside. And this is just like the long-term view of XRP consistently, gaining more and more value. Adoption continues to drive, the price action. And then also we see so many positive catalysts around XRP to the point where like we will have like short-term price swings, and we'll have those bear markets, we'll have those swings in the market to the downside. But overall, long term, we really won't have to worry about price action at all. And I think that this is probably like one of the biggest issues that I have with the crypto spaces. Everyone thinks like overnight something's going to happen and it's gonna, drive the price to like $100 or this, that, whatever. But I look at this space kind of in the sense of like looking back at stocks. Like even if we go back to like the dot-com bubble, most of those stocks, like Amazon, for example, it didn't happen overnight where Amazon made so many people rich. It happened in the span of like 14 plus years for Amazon to bounce back and then start to gain value. And that led it to where it is today. And again, it took well over like 14 plus years. I'm not saying that it's going to take us 14 years on XRP. I'm just saying that Moon Lambo does have a great insight here where, we're already starting to see these ETFs have so much demand, and, the inflows for 19 days straight, that's great. There will be outflows. There's definitely going to be days where we do see an outflow here and there, and we start to see this streak get end. But I still feel like one of the things that we need to be looking at is how the market is maturing, how it's changing, and the effect that this will have long term. We're starting to hear talks about tokenization hitting trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, yet everyone wants to just jump out of the space tomorrow. Patience is so crucial in this space, and I know that that's going to make a lot of people mad, saying, "Oh, well, we've been waiting for this long and that long." But I want you guys to understand that, if you've been around for a while, being an XRP holder for years, going through the SEC lawsuit, going through the 2020-2021 cycle, and not really having a crazy bull run, and then starting to see XRP doing what it recently did. I mean, this was worth it. This was definitely worth it. Obviously, I do think that we go much higher, but I'm just saying, like, we waited for so long. So far, from our prior high on this chart, and let me just grab the date range. From our prior high to where we currently are at, it's been 153 days. That is absolutely nothing in the history of XRP, because we had to wait from the prior high to our recent push. We had to wait over 1,279 days. We're 153 days in from our prior high, and people are complaining already. So think about what would happen if we had to wait 1,279 days. I'm just saying, like, just have a little bit more, patience here. It will pay off. And, just looking at the space in a more traditional market view, I think will go a long way as well. We're starting to see so much positive reinforcement on these projects and on these assets, and I think that that's only going to continue from here on out. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.